Hey guys, welcome back to part two of the American Revolution series. Today we're going to be starting with the First Continental Congress. This is where we left off in part one. You can go back and check out that video if you need to get the first part of the notes or you just want to hear that again. So the First Continental Congress is in 1774. It's in Philadelphia. 56 men meet in Philadelphia to figure out what they're going to do because of the British actions during the Intolerable Acts, closing the port of Boston, making sure town hall meetings weren't a thing, and trying British officials back over in Britain instead of over here. Some of the people there include George Washington, Patrick Henry, and Sam Adams. At this meeting, they agree to not buy anything made in Britain, make sure that they have weapons to defend themselves against the British, but most importantly, they agree to ask the king to stop doing this stuff. Always important to, use your words before you use your guns. Like this one. King George III basically says no. But he doesn't even really respond to their problems. Like they say, well, you've done this, and we don't like the fact that you've done this. And he's just like, whatever, I don't care. The shot heard round the world. This is the American colonists have their weapons stockpiled in Concord, Massachusetts, which Massachusetts is a pretty small state, so this is not very far from Boston. But 800 troops are going, British troops are going to march from Boston toward Concord to look at and then seize those weapons. This is where we get the story of Paul Revere riding through the town shouting, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" which he probably does not do because he is also British and the people in the town are also British. And also, if you were going to say that the enemy was coming, you wouldn't want to shout it out when there are people that like the enemy in the towns, like the Loyalists that we'll see in just a minute. The people that are going to fight these 800 British soldiers are called Minutemen. There are 70 of them, and they're called Minutemen because, in theory, they can be ready to fight in a minute's notice. The fight that they get into is known as the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And in this fight, we're not exactly sure who shoots first. There are many theories as to what actually happens. I would assume, this is Mr. Ader's opinion, it's probably one of the colonists. I feel like it's probably one of those undertrained guys that's going to do the first shot, but that could be wrong. What we do know is after the shooting starts, we have several people that die. Out of the 70 Minutemen, 95 of them are either killed, wounded, or missing. You're not going to say anything? You're not going to ask? Okay, yes, I did say 95 out of 70, and I'm not a math teacher, but that seems wrong. The reason it's 95 out of 70 is as the shooting starts, other people that have houses that weren't signed up as Minutemen are going to get their weapons and join. Some of them are just innocent people that are like out in the field that accidentally get shot. On the British side, we have somewhere around 273 that are killed, wounded, or missing. We end up with a second Continental Congress. We kind of knew that because you don't call something the first unless there's going to be a second. Decided to officially separate from Britain. They write the words, "We are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together." Not really. They write out their complaints. The committee is selected to write these complaints down, and Thomas Jefferson, or as his friends like to call him, Thomas Jefferson, is selected to be the one that actually does the writing. They also met in Philadelphia. The Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, is sometimes considered by nerds like me the birth certificate of the United States. It lists the rights that we think we should have and also the problems that we have with the king. It comes in 4 parts. I like to call them parts 1, parts 2, parts 3, and part 4. But if you want specific names, we have the preamble, the Declaration of Rights, list of grievances, and the resolution. Your preamble, it's an introduction. Hey, my name's Jimmy. This is what I'm here for. I think I should be able to dance on the top of the tables because they're flat just like the floor. That's the Declaration of Rights. List of grievances. But that big meanie head over there and the manager of the McDonald's said that I couldn't do that. So, resolution. I'm going to go start eating at Burger King now. Okay, that's kind of the order that things go in. Now, the Declaration of Independence doesn't have anything to do with McDonald's or Burger King. It's all about Chick-fil-A. Some of the key quotes in the Declaration of Independence include in the preamble, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one nation to dissolve the bands that hold it to another country. And here we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. John Hancock is the first one that comes in and signs, and he writes his name huge on this piece of paper. They do know that if they sign this, they are committing treason. They know this, but it's important to note it's only treason if you lose. It's only treason if you lose. As they're signing this document, Ben Franklin makes a joke, and all of the people there think it's hilarious. He says, "Gentlemen, we must all now hang together, and most assuredly we will all hang separately." And they all laugh. Ha 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 ha. That Ben Franklin, he's so funny. The two sides, the patriots, those are the people that want a separate United States. The loyalists, those who think that the king is right and we should stay part of Great Britain. And the redcoats or the lobsterbacks, that's the British Army. A crazy floating head. The British Army is the most powerful in the world. It's well equipped with weapons and ammunition and like boats and things. They are highly trained and they are disciplined for war anywhere. However, the Americans shoot more accurately, and the British have to carry 3 days worth of stuff with them, which is about 100 pounds. So they're going to fight with an extra 100 pounds. The Americans, on the other hand, we know what the land looks like. We have weapons that are appropriate for the landscape. We don't have huge cannons that we can't carry over hills. We have weapons that are more accurate, shooting into the woods instead of large ones that just the bullet just flies out wherever, whenever you fire it. Our uniform, which is not uniform, is mostly brown, which really blends in with the trees and things as opposed to the bright red of the British. The British advantages include them being well equipped, them being disciplined, and them having the strongest navy. As for the Americans, we are accurate, we know the land, we fight with monkeys. Sorry, that's guerrilla, not gorilla. This is war tactics that aren't common. Instead of lining up and shooting like we talked about in the French and Indian War, we start to like hide in the woods and shoot at them as they walk past us instead of staring at them and shooting and getting murderated pretty much immediately. We also have really good commanders, including George Washington, Nathaniel Greene, Henry Knox, and Benedict Arnold. So, Washington's the commander over all the American forces. Nathaniel Greene, he's really good at figuring out exactly where people need, like how to best allocate your soldiers. If you have fewer people, you need to figure out where to put them where they'll be most effective. Henry Knox is really good with cannons, and Benedict Arnold, he's just really he's a good general. Benedict Arnold is in a situation where he is so good at his job that they don't want to promote him, because if he gets promoted, he won't be as good at the job that he gets, and whoever they get to replace him won't be as good at his job as he is. So they get two worse performances and jobs. So they don't want to replace him. So they keep promoting people below him to positions above him. And eventually he leaves. General Charles Cornwallis, General John Burgoyne, and the newly British leader Benedict Arnold join with William Howe, and they make up the list of British leaders that we see in this. All three of these guys, plus Benedict Arnold, are going to consider America one of the worst places that they've served. Now, Benedict Arnold, it could be because, well, you just were a traitor to all the people that were there in that place. Some of the other key players, and we're going to talk about some of these in just a little bit, include France, Spain, Germany, and Poland. We get some Hessian mercenaries from Germany, and we'll talk about those when we get to the Battle of Trenton. And the Marquis de Lafayette, who we'll talk about when we get to the Valley Forge section. I do want to note that we get a large amount of our gunpowder from the French. Part of that's because the French, the Spanish, and the British are all in that triangle of hatred that we talked about with French and Indian War. And partially because the French just lost the French and Indian War to the British, and this is their chance to get back at the British. We also have Bernardo de Galvez. We'll talk about him in a little bit too. He's a Spanish lord in Mexico because Spain's going to help us out. Baron Friedrich von Steuben. He's going to be a German military commander. He's going to help us at Valley Forge. We'll talk about him then as well. And Nathan Hale, who supposedly says, "I regret that I have but one life to lose for my country," when he's asked does he have any final words when he is being hanged by the neck until dead. There's about 3,000 men that sign up for the U.S. Navy. We build about 13 boats, and of those 13 boats, about 13 of them are either captured or destroyed. The Navy is actually created on October 13th, 1775 by the Continental Congress. We're going to talk about three battles: Fort Ticonderoga, Bunker Hill, and Trenton before we stop today. Fort Ticonderoga is a key strategic location in New York, and Ethan Allen and about 125 of his Green Mountain Boys are going to attack the fort, and they attack it real good. As a matter of fact, they take the fort without firing a shot. That does not mean that they just go in and stab people. That means they catch them so much by surprise that the other side basically just gives up. The British officers, the women, and the children are all captured, and cannons are taken from Ticonderoga, and they're given to Henry Knox in Boston. The Battle of Bunker Hill, which is fought on Breed's Hill, because we're really good at naming stuff, is located near Boston. Redcoats are charging up this hill, and it takes them 3 charges up this hill to finally take over the hill. And for the Americans, that's really good. Like, we even ran out of ammunition, but we're like, wow, can you believe it? Like, it took them 3 tries to get up here. We must be doing something right. For the British, this is ridiculously costful. They lose 1,054 people compared to the Americans losing 441. This cost them a lot, and they start to get a little bit nervous. Here you can see Breed's Hill, Bunker Hill in the background. Washington takes command of the army 2 weeks after this battle. The famous quote from Bunker Hill is from Israel Putnam, who says, "Men, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. You're not going to shoot them while they're way out there. You got to get real close. You want to be able to see that their eye is white before you shoot at them." Battle of Trenton in 1776 is a surprise attack the day after Christmas. Washington's going to cross the Delaware in this heroic pose. He probably isn't standing up on the boat. In actuality, this is not a photograph. This is a painting painted later. And when they get across the Delaware River, they capture about 1,000 German soldiers. That sounds really good, and it is. But just know that they didn't capture them just like regular. The German soldiers, this is the day after Christmas. So on Christmas Day, they partied hard. They got stupid drunk and went to bed. And so when we get there, they are still in the throes of their drunkenness. We lose 4 people. They lost 1,000. The German leader, Colonel Rahl, is mortally wounded, which means he's not killed, but he is injured in a way that injury will lead to him dying soon. And Washington is going to clear the British out of central New Jersey, and this is going to put the Americans on the offensive for the first time. Guys, in the next video, we'll talk about some more significant battles, and we will finish the American Revolution. If you have any questions, let me know. See you guys in the next video.